Winter arrived in the Midwest with a force that felt more like the deep heart of January than the early days of the season. A fast-building winter system swept across the region and erased the landscape behind a curtain of blowing snow. For millions across Indiana, Illinois, and the surrounding states, the shift from routine travel to sudden danger happened in moments. Highways that had been open and flowing turned white without warning, swallowed by snow that dropped so quickly it erased lanes, signs, and even the horizon. Across Indiana, the situation escalated with startling speed. On Interstate 70, one of the region's most heavily traveled corridors, drivers moved from steady cruising to fighting for control as visibility collapsed. Snow coated the pavement faster than plow crews could clear it. Winds pushed icy bands across the roadway and turned the interstate into a slick, shifting surface where tires lost grip without warning. Within minutes, the conditions created a chain reaction that spread from vehicle to vehicle. Cars began to spin sideways, pickup trucks drifted into the shoulder, semis slid across lanes like freight cars on polished steel. What started as a handful of vehicles losing traction grew into a massive pileup stretching across both westbound lanes. More than 45 cars, trucks, and semis ended up twisted across the interstate, stacked against guardrails or resting at dangerous angles along the shoulder. Snow piled around them in uneven drifts while traffic cameras captured the scene as it unfolded. This system was more than an isolated band of snow. It was a sprawling winter storm, stretching from the plains of Iowa to the Great Lakes of Michigan. Heavy snow pushed into major cities and rural communities with equal force. Meteorologists had warned of an early season event, but no model fully captured the speed and intensity that developed as the storm strengthened. By dawn, snow was falling at rates between 1 and 2 inches per hour in multiple locations. Roads that were clear at sunrise became impassable by mid-morning. Chicago faced some of the most dramatic conditions. The city's skyline vanished behind a wall of swirling snow as gusts swept across Lake Michigan and blasted the downtown loop with icy winds. The view along Michigan Avenue dissolved into a white blur. Suburban neighborhoods disappeared behind dense waves of blowing snow. Even seasoned commuters, familiar with harsh winters, struggled to navigate through stretches where lane markings and medians were erased. As the storm intensified, a rare phenomenon arrived over the city. Thunder echoed between skyscrapers as flashes of lightning illuminated the falling snow. The appearance of thundersnow signaled the arrival of an especially energized system. The effect on air travel was immediate. O'Hare International Airport, one of the largest aviation hubs in the country, saw flights canceled in waves. Aircraft sat frozen on the tarmac with wings coated in thick layers of ice, despite the continuous work of de-icing crews. Terminal screens filled with notices of cancellations and delays as passengers waited for updates that changed minute by minute. Midway Airport faced the same challenges. Crews attempted to keep at least one runway open, but fresh snow covered their progress almost immediately. Travelers spent the night in terminals wrapped in coats and blankets, while staff handed out supplies and tried to manage the growing crowds. Because O'Hare is a central national hub, the cancellations did not stay local. Flights in cities far from the Midwest were grounded because incoming aircraft never departed Chicago, and crews exceeded shift limits as delays stretched for hours. While the airport struggled, the highway network across the region collapsed under the mounting weight of snow and ice. Interstate corridors that normally carry freight and holiday travelers across state lines became long stretches of hazard. In Illinois, snow fell in thick sheets and covered the Dan Ryan, the Eisenhower, and the Kennedy expressways. Cars struggled to maintain traction even at reduced speeds. Semis fishtailed as winds cut across open sections of roadway. Patches of black ice formed beneath new accumulation, catching drivers by surprise. Indiana faced conditions that deteriorated even more rapidly. The storm delivered layers of sleet, freezing rain, slush, and dense snow. Each layer created unpredictable surfaces that changed from moment to moment. A vehicle could move across slick ice, mushy snow, and solid frozen patches within the span of a few yards. Drivers reported feeling their tires lose grip without warning. Rural roads vanished behind fast-forming drifts that piled 2 or 3 feet high against fences and tree lines. State troopers responded to continuous reports of spinouts, collisions, and disabled vehicles. In some areas, the number of incidents grew so quickly that officers warned drivers not to travel unless absolutely necessary. Plow crews rotated non-stop, but road conditions shifted too fast for them to keep up. Many were forced to choose between clearing major lanes or assisting stranded motorists blocking the roadway. As the storm pressed deeper into the region, communities faced mounting challenges. Families returning from holiday gatherings found themselves trapped on highways for hours. Snow piled against doors faster than some drivers could clear it. Heaters ran low as temperatures dropped into the low 20s. Parents tried to reassure children while watching weather updates, hoping to hear that plows were approaching. Emergency responders across Indiana and Illinois navigated slick roads and blowing snow to reach victims suffering from whiplash, bruises, and early signs of hypothermia. Hospitals in Chicago saw an influx of patients injured not only in traffic accidents, but also from falls on icy sidewalks and parking lots. Nurses described a steady flow of fractures, sprains, and head injuries caused by refrozen slush. In Indiana, medical centers near the Interstate 70 corridor activated surge protocols as victims from the pileup arrived in waves. Most injuries were minor or moderate, but the volume strained staff already working with limited holiday staffing. Through all of this, responders pushed through whiteout conditions to reach stranded drivers and stabilize the scene on Interstate 70. Tow trucks cleared damaged vehicles one by one. Firefighters and paramedics moved carefully along the icy roadway as wind gusts pushed snow sideways across their path. Despite the severity of the pileup, officials credited seatbelts, reduced speeds, and cooperative drivers for preventing life-threatening injuries. Elsewhere in the Midwest, smaller towns faced their own challenges. Long stretches of unlit rural roads became wind tunnels, where snowdrifts formed faster than crews could remove them. Volunteer groups with four-wheel drive vehicles transported stranded residents to safety. Navigation apps offered little help, often redirecting drivers onto secondary roads that were unplowed and more dangerous than the main highways. By nightfall, the region faced a complete transportation breakdown. Roads, rail systems, and airports that normally keep the Midwest connected simply froze in place. Footage shared across social media showed semis lined up for miles, airports filled with stranded travelers, and vehicles buried beneath drifting snow. For millions, the storm delivered a powerful reminder of how quickly winter can overpower even the most prepared communities. As the final bands of snow faded, the scale of the event became clear. This was one of the most disruptive early-season winter storms the Midwest had seen in years. It was not only the amount of snow or the number of crashes, but the human stories left in its wake. Drivers who watched collisions unfold only feet away. Families who slept in cars on dark highways. Travelers who spent the night on airport floors, waiting for a break in the weather. Communities that pulled together to help neighbors and strangers through a long and daunting night. Officials warned that more winter systems could develop in the coming weeks as temperatures fluctuate and moisture feeds in from the west. Residents were urged to prepare emergency kits, limit travel during heavy snowfall, and monitor updates from the National Weather Service. Even after the storm weakened, winds continued to cause blowing snow and sudden drops in visibility, especially along areas near Lake Michigan. In the end, the Midwest faced not just a storm, but a test of resilience. And as the region begins to recover, one question lingers in the cold air. If early season storms are growing stronger and more unpredictable, what might the rest of winter bring?